Good evening, guys. Welcome back to the Reddit Championship Analysis Series. Today we're going to be facing against Beamer Boy playing Sky Striker. This duel was actually done through voice, so you're not going to see a lot in chat. But again, I was in it, so I can tell you how things went. No worries. It was a really fun game. I won the die roll, so obviously I'm going to go first. Which you can argue against Sky Striker is kind of because like the deck doesn't have like consistent access to a board turn one anymore. But I still don't want to risk going second against it because a well-timed Shark Cannon can be pretty annoying. So I'd rather just go first. Also, it would work. It'd suck even more if they were playing like a there can be only one. So, anyways, let's get right into it. The starting hand is going to be Ravine, Prosperity, Guard Dragon, Nurse, Hospitality. This hand is like it's good, but it's like the worst normal summon in our deck. And then they have Desires, Shark Cannon, Upstart, Terraforming, Talents. So yeah, like this hand is like, I mean, maybe Desires would, but like nobody would hand trap you with this hand, and like it's super unlikely that you'd even get hand trap. Only hand trap you'll probably ever eat is Ash. Like I don't know about maining Talents in Sky Striker. Just this seemed a little off. I think his build is also just naturally a little different, but let's get into it. So I'm going to lead with Prosperity, banishing three. Three I banished. Twin Triangle, Cerberus, and Phoenix. You really don't use these cards going first all that much. So they're like the three bread and butter banish. I never banish six. I don't care if I bricked. I only ever banish three. I think everything else in the extra deck is too good to ever really want to banish. So only in rare cases where if you're absolutely gonna lose if you don't. I'd never banish that much. We're gonna get Guard Dragon, Parlor, Lore Parlor being the best thing to get here. So see now our otherwise incredible like our hand wasn't that great, but we basically got Upstart and found Parlor, which is really nice and why I think Prosperity should like be played, and you should always go out of your way to play this card in pretty much any deck that you can. It's probably the best draw spell in the current metagame. So we're gonna lead with Parlor, dump the changeover since we don't need to put Tiding in the graveyard. We have more than enough extension. We're going to use Ravine, pitching the Nurse to dump Chamber. I could have dumped Black Metal Dragon and revived it with Guard Dragon, but I decided against doing that, and you'll see why. It's because I'm going to Nurse to dump Airness, and then revive Chamber, use Chamber to get a Tiding. Helpful if we're dealing with the Striker back row. And then we're going to go into Seal and add Chamber and Changeover to my hand. Then we're going to go into Guard Dragon, bring back Parlor, and LP. I wanted to put up some sort of defense just in case I could play into a potential nib, but that didn't happen. So we're going to Black Metal into Red MD, and we're going to use Pisty. We're going to keep the Red MD in our hand, and we're going to use Trishula to go into the extra deck and get rid of Soldier of Chaos. That was like the only thing I really keep. Because Soldier of Chaos is hard to deal with. You can't really like target it, so House can't get rid of it, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to beat over. Unless you do it with Show. So I just got rid of it just because of the whole targeting protection thing. I didn't want to give them the chance with like a Shark Cannon or something. And getting a Widow Anchor is always nice. And Tempest, we're gonna get Lorepar, and we're gonna make changeover for the Show, and we're good. We're gonna set Tiding. So my opponent top decks Mind Control, a nice Go second card. Shark Cannon on Parlor was kind of rough, but not worth like fretting over since I have Sail. For the record here, my opponent could have saved the Shark Cannon for the Seal, and it would have fizzled. I didn't initially believe that was true in the TCG, but with the most recent Master Rule revision, if Seal tributes itself and is removed from the graveyard mid-chain, it will not trigger the special summon from deck. So just be aware of that. He's going to go into Afterburners targeting Show, and I'm going to negate it because I don't want Show to get banished by a Shark Cannon. So I'm just going to... And he's going to Mind Control Seal, and I'm just going to trigger Tribute to get Guard Dragon. So he's all but broken my board, but he hasn't quite like broken my advantage. So Desires for 2 when he gets Pancratock Shark Cannon, and he's gonna take the seal. And I make a mistake here. I should have targeted the area 0, not the seal. I was thinking like, oh, this could be the best of both worlds, right? Because I put the seal back in my extra deck, and my opponent can't, and his card fizzles. But the area 0 resolves the same way changeover does, where it sends the card to the graveyard after it looks through the deck. So I made a misplay here, but I should have just known better. But my opponent whiffed it anyway, so. And he talents, and that's how he finds Ray. So he's going to get Pank and Ray, and he's going to use Pank to pop Nurse. Definitely a misplay. I'm guessing he felt he could wall me out of Maids. The only problem with that is like I have my full engine in my hand. Definitely would have went for House Dragon Maid. Because that's just gonna come back to bite him during next standby phase. I don't think he realized it though. So he's going to dump multi-roll. I don't think multi-roll was the card to get here. I think he probably wanted to get like Widow Anchor or something, but it is what it is. But he goes for Afterburners. Oh, he uses the Afterburners to clear my board. Okay. Alright, yeah, I guess that makes sense. That makes sense. Even if I still don't think it's very good, he doesn't really. That means he doesn't have any sort of defense to keep himself like in the game. So he's really he. I have too many cards, and all he has is, against me is nothing. I think he may have banished all his Widow Anchors. 1, 2, 3. Yes, he did. Okay, never mind. I still would have grabbed a Shark Cannon off of Kagari though. I think that would have been the better play. And I'm gonna normal summon Chamber, and like this is just gonna be the end of the game, right? I don't. There's not much to really say here. Sky Striker, Shark Cannon kind of like dominates this matchup, but the main problem with it here is that it wasn't necessarily good enough to beat my advantage, mostly because my opponent doesn't know what to stop. And like that's one of the things about the Dragon Maid matchup with Sky Striker. If your opponent doesn't actually know how to break your advantage, they just kind of get run over, right? So I'm going to go into the unicorn, and I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to spin the Shizuku, um, to do as much damage as I can to force out the Kaina, because I still in my graveyard I still have Tiding, so I can reborn house, get in reborn chamber, tag it to summon house, and then pop a card, and I still have Guard Dragon. So like I still have an FTK if I make access code talker, but I'm trying to like force that point out. So he's gonna summon Ray, and I'm gonna make access code, and I'm expecting access code talker to get Kyned here. That didn't happen. I was surprised. I accidentally banished it, but I meant to declare its effect. Um, so yeah, I don't think my opponent was actually on Kaina, which was definitely unexpected. But I mean, that's what happens, right? So I'm just gonna swing in for lethal. That game was weird because so with Sky Striker going for OTK is kind of difficult because of the access code and the access code OTK method not working very well against Kaina. You have to destroy the mech and then like try to have access code not get hit. And you'll see this come to play in the next board, the next game where I try and play around the potential Kaina. So see, in this game, my opponent goes first. He opened Upstart, Pot, Triple, Sky, Ray, and only one. And I opened like an insane hand, including Cosmic. So yeah, for the only one. He's gonna Upstart into Rose, and he's gonna Desires, and he draws Ice Dragon. So Ice Dragons is pretty much like it's kind of problematic, but it's also not too bad. My hand has enough gas that I can play around it. So I keep the Cosmic close, and he's going to get Widow Anchor to break the board. So yeah, he's got a nice setup. Prison, only one Shizuku, but I can pretty much play through it. So I'm going to normal summon Chamber, search Hospi, and going for Striker, declare Nocto. And my opponent flips only one, and I'm going to hit him with the Cosmic here. So he has to play the game. And I'm going to go into Rom, Chainlink 1, Nocto, Chainlink 2, go for the Ravine. Ravine, dump the Tiding, send the Black Metal, and use the targeting the Black Metal, and he's going to use this opportunity to banish the Romulus, but this is just fine. Even more so, actually, because now I'm going to dump Nurse. And I'm just going to revive Nurse. Nurse effect, revive Chamber. Through a potential only one and Ice Dragon, we're still going. So now we're going to make Seal, just in case my opponent gets desperate and tries to Nibiru. I'm going to Guard Dragon for LP into Black Metal, because Black Metal is not a hard once per turn. Get Pisty, get Red MD. And we're going to use Pisty's effect. Bring back Chamber, banish Pisty, summon back Red MD, and summon Striker Dragon. Okay, so this is a pivotal moment in the duel, right? Because theoretically, I can kill him this turn. Lethal is absolutely possible through Ray, but the idea is I wasn't 100% sure if my opponent was on Kaina. If he is, I cannot OTK him. If he's not, I can. And I'll explain to you why. Because of that, I decided this game ends up playing longer because I wanted to play safer. So I'm going to destroy. I accidentally declare Striker Dragon. Ignore that. I'm going to actually link off the Red MD for the Unicorn, and then have Unicorn send the changeover, spin for Ray. Because I'm going to enter the battle phase because I can still end on a board of Seal for show and just Unicorn. If my opponent had access code, if I had made access code and my opponent had Kaina, I couldn't kill him, and I would just have an access code sitting against Sky Striker, and I know my opponent has Widow Anchor, and they have 3 spells in grave, so I would literally just be losing it. So I decided to play around that and try and play safe. And so my opponent lets me destroy Ray there. That was kind of interesting. I'm not sure why he did that. He definitely should have used his mech. He could have gotten back. Well, he could have put out a Hayate and like loaded his graveyard with something. That's not too crazy, but it would have been nicer than just letting it go. And so I'm gonna make show here. And while I could have killed him, if he had Kaina, I couldn't. So I decided to bank on the possibility that he did. And while it may not seem like it, I actually get rewarded for this decision later on in the duel. Because one of the problems with Sky Striker is that this deck doesn't really push game very well anymore. Like, at all. It struggles quite a bit to do so. So he's going to Ray and Rose, and he's going to try and make his own access code play happen. And he's going to go for Kagari. Kagari for the Anchor. And he makes access code. On resolution of his effect, I'm going to get rid of the access code talker. There's absolutely no reason to leave it there. In hindsight, I could have gotten rid of Ray. I mean, I could have bounced Ray, but I don't think there was a lot of reason to do that. Maybe I could have OTK'd. I think I could have. I could have held the tidying, bounced the access code, held the tidying. I know he would have had Ray in his hand. And he would have access code popped my entire board. He has... Oh, he only had 2 monsters. I mean, 1 monster. I think it might have actually been better to let him keep the access code. Because he would have only been able to pop 1 card, which really didn't matter any of these 3. Huh. Interesting. He would have still had Widow Anchor, though. And he obviously has talents. So I'm going to go for Chamber, and I'm going to search Hospi off of Seal. And he goes for Hayate, and he uses talents, and I have to stop this. But he has Anchor, and I knew it, so Drawing in the only one definitely sucks. And he leaks off and goes for Zeke. And he uses Zinc to banish Nurse to reduce my plussing. I don't know how I feel about that, cause like if I don't know, I don't think he's gonna enter battle phase though. It seems like a really bad decision to do so. So he's gonna go for Widow Anchor. He's gonna go into Shizuku, and he's smart enough not to enter the battle phase, which is the correct play here. Because now he technically has me pretty much on a hot seat. I don't know why he banished Chamber there. I have one right here, so I think that was kind of a bad play. I would have banished Show if anything, and even then, like I don't know. So he's gonna go for only one. I'm going to send Chamber, just keep Parlor. Gonna bounce back Parlor. Probably should have normal summoned Parlor here just to dump another Tiding. Not sure why I didn't. I'm pretty sure I have one more. Actually, I know why. I didn't want to do it because I wanted to potentially um draw it, but it was stupid of me to keep Parlor instead of Chamber because Chamber could search it. I guess I just wasn't thinking that far ahead, which when that was kind of an obvious play there. Um, but then again, like I knew my opponent had Widow Anchor, so it definitely wouldn't have gotten to that point. But it would have still been better than what actually ended up happening. But anyways, we're gonna keep going. I'm gonna make house. Um, I'm going to attack into Shizuku because I just want him to burn through his resources. In hindsight, though, I probably should have just left the Shizuku there because it's not really doing anything. And then Nurse gets sent to the graveyard because I can't summon it back with only one. Um, so it is what it is. And then goes for Afterburners. And he draws in a Rose. Doesn't really matter too much. Clears my board. Kind of in a hot spot right now. But the good news in all of this is that I don't really mind too much. So I'm going to use Hospi. And he's going to Shark Cannon to get rid of my Chambers. So at this point, he thinks by removing Chamber from the game that he'll win. Not really how this deck works. Parlor can do pretty much most of it by herself. He doesn't know that, but by this point, I've gone through all of my the only thing that Chamber could do is just get back, search another Tidying, which he could have stopped. He could stop with a Widow Anchor. So by targeting her there, it doesn't really do anything. And like now, Chamber's basically dead, right? But I guess he thinks I'm on 3 Hospi when I'm not. So I'm gonna go into Tempest just to put a body on board. And I'm going to push for some more damage. And he's going to go for Ray. And then in the end phase, he's going to go for, I believe this is his last Shizuku. Oh no, he has one more. So he's going to search Hornet Drones. Just for follow-up. Reset. Afterburners. And then he draws into another Afterburners. So at this point in the game, things aren't looking that great, but top deck prosperity is very nice. And I accidentally banished them face up. And I revealed Twin Twisters. So this was nice. This was the point in the game where things started moving in my favor. So I decide to get the new set and only one, and I normal summon Parlor. Parlor gets taken, and like while I could Tidying here to put bodies on board, I actually don't think that was a good idea. So I'm gonna let it go. I let my opponent keep his cards, and there's a reason for that. So he's gonna go into Kagari to get back Hornet Drones. I feel like he's gonna try and make a push, which is why he had it at Hornet Drones. I don't know if I would have done that, but he goes in the battle phase, and I tag. I get lower part of my hand. His battle phase is wasted. I don't know why he entered battle phase here so recklessly. There wasn't a lot of reason to do so. I put the Chamber in the graveyard, and he mind controls Parlor. By the way, in case you're wondering why I kept Lorpar instead of leaving it on the field, it's because I know he plays BLS Link, and I didn't want to give him the chance to make it because I really don't have a lot of answers to it if it gets too strong left in my extra deck. So I put Parlor in jeopardy here. So he ends the game. I mean, he ends his turn with the set drones, and I draw Panker Tops. And this is kind of like unfair, right? This is a sacky draw. So I'm gonna pop the set, and he gets Hornet Bit, and I'm like, that's fine. I don't really care. And my opponent decides he's gonna wall up as best he can. So I'm gonna Nurse Chamber. Um, Chamber has no target, so I'm just gonna enter battle phase and go into show, and then use Nurse's effect and go into Airness, and I'm gonna run over the Striker Max. I want him to cycle through as many of these as I can get him to cycle through. Get rid of Nurse and Ray. I mean Rose, doesn't really matter. Drops Nib for turn, probably feels miserable, but I mean that's what you decided. Gonna summon back House and use House's effect to summon Parlor. That Nib is actually surprisingly relevant. And he goes into Hayate. Afterburners to hit show. Then he enters battle phase, and this is a mistake he didn't really foresee. I'm going to use Ernest's effect at the start of the battle phase before declaring any Maid's effect to special summon Chamber, which means I just get a free +1 from doing this because I get show back, and it caused him to waste his Afterburners, and then I get the extra pop, so it's actually more like a +2. So I get rid of the Hayate, force my opponent into Ray, and then force him off of Ray, and then I've pretty much won the game from this position because now Lorpar is going to tag again, and this is going to take his entire access to the Striker Max. And he's going to try and Nib. I negate. Nib would not have mattered even if it landed. And that's just going to be the end of the game. So the analysis for this game is, I think Sky Striker can very easily win this matchup, mostly because Shark Cannon is a powerful card, and I think Kaina can really screw up the gears in your not your FTKs, your OTKs. But this guy just wasn't playing them. He was not playing Kaina. I have no idea why. And he really didn't understand how good Shark Cannon is in this matchup, which was a bit off-putting in like, even if when he was using the card, he was hitting Chamber because I'm guessing like he thinks the deck is Dragon Link, and so he was so focused on what I was doing turn 1 that he missed the fact that after turn 1 the rest of my plays were just very varied and very different. So I I I don't really know how I feel about this one. This one felt completely like my opponent just could have played it better. I don't necessarily think that would have won him any of these games. Again, like this was game 2 and I won it going second. So he would have still had to win a hypothetical game 3 had he did play correctly. If he played Kaina, I think things just would have been so much better for him. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for the video. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.